air is fragrant with a smell of spice and roasting coffee, the speed drops from 17 to 11 miles an hour. Besides the obvious business of collecting fares, running motor coaches, streetcars, and trains, there's a whole lot that goes on behind the scenes in a system as big as this one. Roadbeds and tracks have to be maintained, and hundreds of men with a variety of skills are employed throughout the year on this phase of the operation alone. There are the machine shops with their great lathes and the expert machinists who keep a transit system running. There are furnaces in which metal is heated and under the masterful guidance of men, beaten into the 1,001 things needed. This is sort of a square roundhouse. It's part of the car shops, which covers acres and employs carpenters, upholsterers, metal workers, and electricians, besides the machinists and mechanics who make a complete check of every car every 48 hours and do little jobs like screwing up the wheels. This is part of one of the garages where the motor coaches are checked every 24 hours and completely serviced every 500 miles. Washing is made easier when you have a deal like this. And you'd be surprised how dirty they get after being on the road all day. Or would you? Things have to be kept looking fresh. There's a certain pride in the fact that this is one of the few locally owned, locally managed transit systems in the country. Geared to the needs and dedicated to the service of the East Bay, Key System became one of the largest single businesses in the area. Key System and the colorful progressive communities it serves had come of age. And then, Pearl Harbor.
I ask that the Congress declare that since the unprovoked and dastardly attack by Japan on Sunday, December 7th, 1941, a state of war has existed between the United States and the Japanese Empire.
The country accepted the challenge. A new tempo came into our lives, and the great East Bay, with its unparalleled harbor and factory site, became a keystone in Uncle Sam's arsenal of democracy. Local labor, supported by the thousands who poured in from every state in the Union to help, responded with a spirit that smashed production records wide open. Many Key System employees, like everyone else, were called into the armed services. And so, in an area of critical labor shortages, this company became the first in the country to train women to help in the vital task of carrying people on their everyday affairs, to and from their work, schools, and churches, in an area that suddenly acquired several hundred thousands of new population. These girls served their country in the necessary field of transportation. It took manpower to build the sinews of war and transportation to get them on the job. But the equipment that had served the needs of our community in peacetime became overburdened and sadly inadequate to the demands of war. The Richmond Shipyard Railway is a good example of the way initiative and know-how licked one of the country's knottiest transportation problems. The road was built and run by Key System for the United States Maritime Commission. But new cars, steel, rails were impossible to get. So into its building went rails resurrected from scrap heaps and old spikes salvaged and straightened. The cars had served a lifetime on the old New York elevated. But with everything on wheels being pressed into service, they carried the men who built the ships that took the stuff to the boys who finished the job. But with all the extra work, Key System couldn't neglect its regular job. Thousands of people who had been able to jump in the family car, well, you remember gas rationing? And there are two more good-looking customers. Do you know, in one war year, the motor coaches alone carried more than 71 million people. What's that? They were all in your coach. Ah, those were the days. And then there were life's little surprises. I tell you, public transportation was more important than ever. Army and Navy bases covered the area, and in peak months, as many as 1,078,000 men per month were moved to and from the Treasure Island Navy base alone. And these activities didn't stop with the daylight hours. A 24-hour working schedule required transportation to fit. So the tools of peace were stretched a little further to meet the needs of war, and went on working through the night, serving a thriving area of homes and industries from Richmond on the north to Hayward in the east, with 83 interlocking transit lines. Now we can rededicate ourselves to the greater task of building a lasting peace. We know what our job is, to serve this great area better than ever, to play our part in its growth and progress. And we shall do it to the utmost of our ability. Unfortunately, a normal ideal condition doesn't form like a beautiful cloud and settle down on us overnight. But there's time to catch up on the gossip, and chewing gum's back. Of course, there are still some bottlenecks, and some rubbernecks. And, well, despite everything, the traffic keeps moving. But people can set their watches by the Trans-Bay trains as they go by. Commuters get one of the most exciting rides in the world. And boy, what a view! There's that spice and coffee smell again. One of the busiest intercity transit lines in the world safely delivers another trainload of passengers to the busiest terminal in America. Well, so much for the past and the present. Now, what about tomorrow? On the drafting boards of the engineers and designers, plans are already taking shape for a fleet of motor coaches and trolley coaches that will match the future planned for this greater East Bay. Some of the boys are pretty far ahead. We're aiming at perfection and plan to give you the smoothest, swiftest, safest transportation possible. We're going to go ahead and show you...
Hey, Doc! Hey, Doc!
Whoa there, McKee. Who invited you? Come on now. Get out. Get out. Possible designs of future Trans-Bay trains are being studied. They will be set upon by...
Hey, Doc! Hey, Doc, I wanna...
Will you please stop interrupting? Go on. Get out before I have to use the fly swatter. Cute little cuss, isn't he? Inside, where they have the parts you sit down on, There's going to be something that you won't...
Hey, Doc. Hey, Doc, I want to...
All right, Mac, you win. Go ahead.
Folks, it's going to be wonderful. We're going to have television, shower baths, floor shows, free meals, and, well, we'll watch. It's cozy, isn't it?
Just a minute, McKee.
Hey, what's the idea? Hey, put me down.
Everything's going to be wonderful, all right. But let's not exaggerate. But really, folks, the future does look mighty bright.